Okay, hi. I start off with the first part of our presentation. My name is Marion. I work at the Austrian Mediathek. I just introduced myself. I worked in video digitization for over 10 years, and now I'm taking care of our digital archive. I want to start off to introduce my institution because I think we are very diverse institutions, and many things how we do depend on our institutional goals. So the Austrian Mediathek is Austria's audio and video archive. I think it's so small on my... Could I help? It's so small here that I can't read.
I can.
So now I can read, and this helps me as a non-native speaker. So our goal is to collect and preserve audiovisual cultural heritage, except for film and photographic material. We were founded in 1960 as the Austrian Phonothek. So the hugest part of our collection is audio. It's about 90% compared to video, which is about 10% of our collection. And since 2001, we are a branch of the Vienna Technical Museum. The contents that we collect are on topics like music, theater, literature, history, politics, and science. What is special about the Austrian Mediathek? We have no institutional link to production. We are active in building our collection, so we really have to approach other institutions who have collections and work on cooperations to expand our collection. We focus on preservation and not on presentation, and this has to do a lot with that for the largest part of our collections, we're legally not allowed to show it online or only in parts when you visit us directly. The digital collection of the Austrian Mediathek. So our digital file handover started in the early 2000s, and since 2014 the handovers accelerated rather quickly. We get audio and video directly either from producers or for, I think it's the main part is initiators. The files that we get are mainly made for documentation purposes. I'm now going to talk about the digital collection, who is of external origin, which I think is very different because we digitize in-house and we make TV, radio recordings in-house. I'm not going to talk about that. So only the hand hours that are provided externally. It often comes from oral history interviews, from historians, scientific projects. Many times it's theater recordings from other institutions. We have recordings of discussions, speeches, literature readings, sometimes filmmakers, musicians or collectors. And we have recordings from the Austrian Parliament, which also come in digital form. One thing is that the files come as they are. They are often handed over years after the production of the files, and the history of the files is in most cases totally unknown. The files were not created with having an initial archiving purpose. They were often created as a copy to work with it. For example, a theater documentation to know how to create this thing when someone has to step in, for example, or the providing of checksums is mostly impossible. So we tried this over many years to talk with the people who hand over files to get checksums, and it's so time-consuming, and it's really giving IT support that we don't have the time to get into that. The files often come as mixed media. We often get duplicates, copies, clips, and whatsoever. So it's really often a kind of a file dump of whatever they have. The producers don't have, most of the times have no or little knowledge of AV or IT. And we as the Austrian Mediathek, we have no control over the composition or the condition of the files. This is a screenshot of the tool that we use to manage our digital collection. So it's just quickly, I've given lots of other presentations on that. It's basically a search engine who uses crawlers to get all the information about the data. And as a next step for our institution, we want to get more and deeper into the analysis of our files. So at the moment, on a file base, I have to get quicker. We only extract the file extension, and we want to go on to use MediaInfo to filter more of our files. So you can do a filter of all the codecs in your archive or all the resolutions that you have and so on. So working together with MediaInfo was planned. This is just how files get into our archive over different sources or internet transfers and so on. And now I go on to the story. It's shortly before last No Time to Wait, I came across a file that was handed over from someone else. And for every file that we import to our digital archive, we do stream hashes. So for the video stream and for the audio stream. This is just in preparation if we do a lossless conversation that we can, conversion, that we can verify that. So in this case of the file, we could not create the stream hashes because the file was broken. And that's what kept me thinking about, even if the checksum chain in our institution is fully controlled from the handover on, the files might be defect and you might not know. And that's why I talked to Jérôme in Prague. What about checking file corruption with MediaInfo? Yeah. I added this picture because I think they always wanted to know about corruption. I think you have to be brave to face that, because every time you look closer, you get more work in your archive and you don't get more people. But actually our job is to look closer and even closer, so we do that anyways. So this is just an example of a conformance error that we now have as an output in MediaInfo. And what we did is that we wanted to do checks mostly on a container level to keep it really quickly. And we implemented, or Jérôme implemented, the most common file formats in our archive. We went deeper with MP4, AVC, and AAC because we expected at the Austrian Mediathek that most errors would occur there. And yeah, now we'll hand over to Jérôme and this.
While Jérôme prepares his presentation, I wanted to say that everyone, of course, knows Jérôme. He's an open source developer, and he's the main person behind Media Area. So, Jérôme, take it away.
So we get a lot of tools already ready. For example, MediaInfo supports the analyzing of several file formats, but MediaInfo at the beginning was more for just a report about what is the file format, what is the video stream format, and so on. And above that, there was some sponsorship for creating a conformance checker. And beyond just having a reporting about what is the content of the file, we created a conformance checker thanks to a sponsoring, but only on Matroska, FFV1, and FLAC and PCM. Because it was the main focus from the initial sponsor. Then we got other fundings for adding more checks on specific file format or specific audio format, like ADM, and it was USAC. USAC is like AAC, but the new version of AAC. And the sponsor wanted a full conformance checker, and they were ready to pay for that, so we did that. We were able also to add more format for analyzing, but just a quick analyzing, because there is a difference about implementing a full conformance checker and just a quick analyzing at the beginning. When I talked with Marion, she said at the beginning, I want everything. I want to be sure that there is no issue in my files. Yeah, okay, but do you have the money for that? And okay, a full conformance checker is very expensive, but you actually don't always need a full conformance checker, and we can find a good balance between what you need and what we can develop at a low cost. So we need to discuss always for knowing what is the limit between what you want and the cost. And we find something, a compromise, something in between, trying to check the header of each frame. So checking that is the file coherent? Do you have, if for example, the file at the beginning in the file header says I am 1 gigabyte big, and your file is only 1 kilobyte, maybe there is an issue, and we can automatically detect that, and it is not complicated. So let's do that at the beginning. An example. Marion had a couple of WAV files, and it was, when you play it in VLC, it is 2 seconds. Okay, but the file is big. It is 20 megabytes, and it is 2 seconds. It is not normal. And if you do just a raw copy with FFmpeg, for example, there is no error message, and it is totally legitimate. The file header says that the content is not so big, only 250 kilobytes. We do that. The result is a lot smaller. It is just a raw copy, so it should be exactly the same. But FFmpeg truncate because the file header says it is a short file. And you see no error. When you play it in your player, actually no error. In FFmpeg, no error. But the content is still there. So now in MediaConch and MediaInfo, we implement a check saying, we check if the file has an integrity. And now we have a report. The report is very technical. It is based on the specifications. So it just try to see, is there a coherency in the file? So it is a bit cryptic, but at least you have an error message. With FFmpeg, with your player, you have no error. And then we can know that there is an issue. You have a flag. If you check all your repository with all your files, you have a list of files with errors, and you can check deeper. This is the first implementation currently, and Marion provided me some example of the results, and I did some analyzing, and sometimes it is, oh, okay, the MP3 file, for example, the end of the MP3 file is weird, but it is only null bytes. So it is not valid, but it is not a loss of content. So we need to tweak a bit now the tool, because there are some check with a low priority. So it is bad, but you don't lose content. For the WAV file, it is very bad. So we need to ponderate what is the priority and so on. And we need to decide what we do with that. Will we curate the content or not? So now we will filter. So we will do this kind of update of the tool saying there is a priority, what is very important and what is not. That's all, and you, for me, again for you.
Yeah, we still have about 9 minutes.
Beginning again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry.
We are continuing.
Yeah, Marion, still talk.
Sorry. At the moment we're still getting results, so every day I look what's waiting for me, and if I get new conformance errors, that's the last day, like 2 days ago. I have checked 4,771 files. It's important to say that it's non-curated material, so we have duplicates, clips, and whatsoever. So not everything of them will eventually be taken over to our collection. But 409 files had a conformance error, which I did not expect at all. This is such a high rate. Most of it get the error message, file size is less than expected. Okay, so this is just the results of the check that I've done. I said initially that we expected to have most errors in MP4, AVC, AEC, because that's what we saw. We did not expect that we have the highest rate in the WAV files that we got. So it's a 10% rate of errors in WAV, and we have a 13% rate of errors in MP3. We are currently getting more results, and we want to go deeper into analysis, but the quick analysis that Jérôme did is that it's actually not that bad because most of the cases do not really corrupt the content, but still it's not conform, and I think that's an important thing to know. I think that this output is important information for artists. It might be that you also have a lot of errors in your collections that you don't know about and that you feel safe with your WAV files. So I will end off with, wanted to end with a conclusion, but I decided to talk about consequences about this. First of all, in preservation strategy. I think that this is a really strong case to keep the born digital original and not only normalized files. Because even if you normalize lossless, you could lose some content. So this is one consequence. Another consequence is for our workflow. We need to do immediate feedback after file handover, and this is what I said earlier. You don't get more people when you have to do more work. So we will have to adapt our workflow that for every handover we will run those kinds of checks. This only makes sense if you might be able to change something. So the only chance that we will have is get back to the institution who handed us these files over and ask them if they have another copy maybe, or maybe they can run checksums. But I think for many, many cases, since the handovers take place years after their production and the history is unknown, that the corruption might be somewhere in the past, so irreversible. Yeah, checksum checks are not enough. So the next steps, we are going to run these checks over the whole digital archive. We are going to collect more error cases and analysis, and we want to refine the error messages to separate minor from major issues. One idea that I really think is interesting was from Jérôme of maybe thinking about an automatic repair of WAF containers. So I think that could be an interesting thing for many institutions in our field. Next steps might also be up to you. So maybe you want more text, other formats, and you're invited to join the funding. I want to end this talk with a quote from Jérôme. Don't trust the file. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion and Jérôme. Now we have some 4 minutes for questions. Okay, I'll start over here.
That was so interesting. Did you check the corrupted files against the method of file delivery? Because I saw that you also, you have you accept via hard drive, you accept via online transfer. Were you able to link the high quotas with the online transfer, for example?
No, we were not able to link that. No.
But you checked, and it's regardless.
It's regardless. Most of the content that we get is still on hard disk drives. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got another question.
Hello, it's a bit related. I think some of the errors that you see might come from the actual program that created the file. For example, in WAV file, it's easy to make a mistake at the beginning when you calculate the whole size. So, and for example, there was also NPEG-TS, depending on where it's coming from, if it's from capture from, I don't know, terrestrial emission or something like that, or satellite, then usually there's errors. That's what the format is designed for. So it's not actually a damaging error because it's part of the where it's coming from. So maybe do you have an analysis of when an error is actually the file was damaged or it was actually like that in the source?
So unfortunately, we don't have the name of the encoder in the WAV files, in the buggy WAV files. So we don't know. For the WAV files, we are sure it is the encoder. So it is so stupid file header. It is a bad encoder. But for other files like MPEG-TS or the MP4, it is a bad transfer because 99% of the frames are good, but a couple of frames are bad. So it is during the transfer. Sometimes it happens during the transfer, sometimes it is due to the encoder. We can know for each file what it is, but yeah, it can happen from everywhere.
Have time for another question? Yes.
You spoke about considering automatic repair of the corrupted WAV containers. And you also mentioned about retaining the original file. So if you do that, would you keep a copy of both files? So the version that's corrupt and then the repaired version?
I would definitely do that.
But we can also optimize the storage by storing the list of the changed byte. For example, in the WAV file, 99% of the content will not be changed. We will change only the file header. So we will discuss about, do we keep a copy of both files, of the original file and the modified file, or do we just log the changes? There is a discussion about how we do that in the workflow. So both are possible to keep both files or just the log.
So at the Mediathek, we want to play it safe. So we store the original as original. So I don't know what happens in the future, and there always might be a reason to go back to the original file.
Thank you. Any other questions in the audience? Thank you very much, Marion and Jérôme.
There is a question. Oh, there is a question.
So I understand this already in the public or published version of MediaInfo.
Some checks are already in the public version, and some other checks are in the development version. So we have snapshots. We can send the link. So it is public, but not directly on the main web page of MediaInfo.
Okay.
So just drop me an email and send you the link to the snapshot repository.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give it more time. Do we have
One more.
questions?
Hi, so my question is actually twofold. The one is are those checks only added to MediaInfo at the moment, or are those also going to be part of MediaConf, for example?
So it is in both MediaInfo and MediaConf. So MediaInfo, you have just a text or XML output, and in MediaConf you can have more advanced features about having a list of files and with a graphical view of the files which are good or not good. So at the beginning we started 2 different projects. MediaConf was based on MediaInfo, but all the error output was only in MediaConf, but the sponsor and the users said, yeah, but MediaConf is one thing, but MediaInfo is installed everywhere, so please put something in MediaInfo for also saying that there is an error, so everyone can see it. So in MediaInfo, it is a small binary. We want to keep it small, so you just have the text output. So in the basic interface, you have a warning, oh, you have X conformance errors. And in the text output, you have a list of errors, but just in text. And in MediaConf, after that, if you want, you can have more automation about a list of files and so on. But it is in both.
And the related question to the errors themselves, are those usually just going to be text-based, or do you also have error codes that could be standardized to?
Currently, it is mostly text-based, and if there is a sponsorship for more structured data, we will do that. But for the moment, we try to keep low cost, so we stay in the MediaInfo report thing, so it is a text output. But yeah, again, it depends on, we need to find a good balance between the cost and what you want. So currently it is a text output, but we would like to have a more advanced output in the future, depending on the sponsorship.
Okay, thank you. That was a great presentation, Marion and Jérôme.